Macrobiotic way of life is our insurance policy. And we don't have to pay extra to that because that's our daily eating and thinking. And so I went on the web yesterday, and what did I come up with? I went to a site that gave you, the healthcare premiums for 2 adults, non-smokers, who are over 50, because that's our situation. And there were like 65 providers, health, with their premiums up there. And the lowest one was $288, but you had a $10,000 deductible per month, $288 per month. And the highest was like over $1,000. And I'm not even going to go into the politics of the health premiums, because I've known personally people, who came into macrobiotics after they got cancer, and they went through that whole rigmarole with the health care, and they had their policies. And it turned out their policies didn't cover this and didn't cover that, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go there because what's the point? I'm just telling you it's a waste of time and money and effort to even buy this stuff. It's like, it's a total scam. It's really not a healthcare system we have a sick care system. It's just that, and you basically what you're doing when you buy, if you do buy a health insurance quote-unquote policy, all you're saying to yourself is, I have no clue how to take care of myself, and I know inevitably I'm going to get sick sooner or later, and I'm just putting in a prepayment plan to pay for when I get sick. And then you find out in many cases that even doesn't cover when you get sick. So what's the point? So here we are, we eat macrobiotically. No, it's not that we don't get sick. We do get sick. And as I say in my book, this is not a bad thing. In fact, it's very healthy to get sick. There's a paradox for you, but I explain it in my book. So when we do get sick, meaning we get symptoms of, this and that, first of all, it indicates to us that we're healing, number one. And number two, we say, okay, well, I need to change this, I'll alter this part of my diet, I'll stop eating that, and I'll let it run its course, and and you feel a lot better off than you did when you started the quote-unquote sickness. So, the average price I came up with for what a couple over 50 pay is $770 a month. That's a ridiculous amount of money. So right off the bat, when you start your macrobiotic way of life, you're cutting your costs of your food intake between 30 and 50%. And you're not paying any health insurance. You just stop that. So that means your cost of living plummets, which means your standard of living goes up, essentially. Because here you are, living this wonderful life, experiencing all these incredible changes in your self. You're not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. But you're saving a ton of money. Or rather, you're not really saving it, because saving only means if you actually put it aside and, well, buy gold and silver with it, which you should be doing. But it means your cost of living goes down. You don't need to earn as much in order to be well off. All right, so then we don't pay for vitamins, and they're very expensive because all the vitamins we need are already there in the food that we eat every day. And don't let anybody tell you that they're vitamin deficient. They are not vitamin deficient. The fact of the matter is that when we buy our vitamins and we take them, we're not getting them. That's the point. Whereas when we eat vegetables, We are getting our vitamins. There's a significant difference, a monumental difference between eating vitamins that are present in the whole grains and vegetables than it is eating vitamins that is in a pill. The ones in the pill are unrecognizable by the body because they are not the same substance. They may look the same under the microscope, but they are not the same substance whatsoever. And in fact, vitamins taken in the doses that they're taken in, which you're encouraged to take them in, are actually detrimental to your well-being over the long run. There was a study done, and that's on my website. If you go to the food and use section on my website, it's detailed in there. There was a study done, I think it was by the University of Washington, this was several years ago, on a cohort of about 8,000 people who had symptoms of lung problems, lung cancer, and they had a history of asbestosis and smoking, exposure to asbestos and smoking, I think. At any rate, they divided this 8,000 people into two groups of 4,000. And one group they gave a placebo, and the other group they gave high dosages of beta-carotene and some other vitamin. And after, I think it was after 10 years, they terminated the study because it became apparent that the people who were taking the vitamin supplements were dying off faster than the people who were not. That pretty much tells you all you need to know. And that's not the only study that's been done that confirms the fact that vitamins at best are a complete and utter waste of time and money. They absolutely do nothing. And at worst, they're detrimental to our well-being. And of course, the other thing we don't eat or to take in is alcohol. And of course, alcohol consumption is definitely detrimental to one's well-being. So, just on those 3 counts alone, we have seriously lowered our cost of living, which in this day and age is very, very important because the cost of living is going up. I mean, even notwithstanding the fact that, yes, your brown rice, your whole grain vegetable way of eating is going to go up like everything else. Relatively speaking, it's still going to be significantly cheaper than the standard fare. Now, as I said, well, maybe I didn't say it here, there are approximately 48 million people on food stamps, and that is increasing every month. And you get $138 per person per month. So if you're a family of 2, then you get, 138 times 2 is what? $276 a month. And you can live macrobiotically very well on that by eating whole grains and vegetables and beans and sea vegetables and so forth. You can live on that very well. And nobody tells you that. But I am telling you that you can live very well on that. So that's one aspect, major aspect. No, from a personal standpoint. I mean, no, and not even talking about the benefits in terms of, your mental and emotional and physical well-being that emerges as you adopt this way of eating gradually. I mean, it doesn't take actually that long. You should start to see changes within 3 days. I mean, if you really say, okay, like the way I did it when I started. I mean, I went to my pantry, got a This was 75, right? So there were no food banks in those days. You know, starvation around the world, or in the developed countries, hadn't reached the point at that time that food banks were necessary. So I took a big plastic bag and went into my pantry, and I just emptied everything out. You know, the refrigerator, you know, the milk and the cheese and the eggs and the butter and the cream and the meat and all this stuff, eggs, everything. It just went into that bag and it went down to the dump. And I replaced it with brown rice, aduki beans, seaweed, miso, and vegetables, pickles. And I learned how to cook, and I couldn't cook my way out of a paper bag when I started this. You know, so I got a cookbook, and the cookbooks are listed in here that I recommend. It's called The End of Medicine. And it's available everywhere. You know, you just go online, you can get it. You go on my website, you can go on Amazon, you can go on any bookstore. You just walk into Borders or your local bookstore and order it, and it's available. About $20 for this. That's the soft cover. The hard cover is $30. And there it is. Essential reading for everybody. You know, in all, well, it's not, I mean, this is a solid book. And as long as people need to eat, this book is necessary for them to read and implement.